Welcome to ChattingGPT, the podcast where I get to speak to interesting humans who are implementing AI in the workplace. I'm Mary Rose Lyons, the founder of the AI Institute, and today I'm joined by Stephen Redmond, who's an influential leader in the world of data, analytics and digital transformation. Stephen's background includes Head of Data and Analytics and AI at BearingPoint, Data and AI Innovation at Accenture, and many others. He's widely regarded as a visionary in the way that he applies advanced analytics and AI. And I invited him on ChattingGPT today because he has a great ability to cut through the hype and focus on responsible implementation of AI and drive measurable business results. So it's a lot to stand up for, Stephen. You're very welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Well, we start off by talking with the talk of hype. End of 2025, the Gartner hype cycle came out recently. Did you see it? They put generative AI and broader AI sliding into that trough of disillusionment. Do you agree?
It's the thing about the Gartner hype cycle is that it is a cycle. It means it's pushing through, and there is a kind of a steady stream of anti-AI narrative in social media. And that seems to be pushing, and there, as usual, there was a big kind of rush for people to kind of get on board with it, and a load of people behind that rush who were kind of going back. Maybe I'll wait and see. I'm a bit worried about this. Not sure. And slowly and surely, some people got through the rush and made some great strides, but some people, reported that they didn't, and there's been a few reports like from MIT saying, 95% of all of these things failed. Lot of people criticizing that report, but the reality is, pilots fail, and a lot of the time people fail because they're not really thinking out. What are we trying to do? What value are we trying to achieve? Where are we going with this? But the reality on the ground is as well that companies are going, no, we're not doing the AI, but their people are. Their people are using ChatGPT. If it's locked down, like in a lot of companies on their desktops, they're using it on their phone. Absolutely. It's so the shadow AI is very big. You see the numbers of users that ChatGPT has every week. It's like up to the billions. There's a lot of people using it, and those people are getting ahead of their colleagues, but they're also risking the business because they're probably putting business data onto a public service that doesn't have any security.
I know whenever I meet anyone, like potential new clients, and I say, so, what are you using? And they go, oh, we're not using anything. And I get this little pain in the pit of my tummy because I'm thinking, oh, but your staff so are. There's a lot of shadow AI use going on. We saw that hype cycle image here in the AI Institute, and what we were finding really interesting was like over on that trough of disillusionment was the kind of the AI, generative AI space, but on the left hand side in the climbing space was AI literacy, and we all did like virtual high fives. We're a largely remote company. We're doing virtual high fives because where I see things and where I believe it really works is when companies invest in AI literacy and they get all the staff trained in safe and secure use and also creative use, and then that kind of drives up the ideas that will make those AI investments more likely to stick, because instead of something being imposed from the top, like this is the AI that we're doing, it's something that bubbles up from the bottom. So we saw that that AI literacy piece as like pushing the generative AI forward. And I really like what you say, it is a cycle. I forget to look at that diagram as a cycle.
Yeah, it's important actually, the AI literacy, and you say coming from the top down, the literacy needs to go from the top down as well, because what I've seen in other organizations is that a lot of the top leaders are talking about it, but not necessarily doing that training themselves, because in their day-to-day work, maybe they don't need to use it, and maybe they're not using it so much. Middle managers are using AI a lot. And then depending on the organizations, then people below that level are not using it because they're not so sure, but there's like pockets of people moving up. Middle managers have never been so pressed for time, and that's why they're turning to AI to help them get through.
Well, speaking of middle managers, I'll tell you a story. I had a conversation with someone a couple of weeks ago, someone in Ireland and someone in Dublin. That's all I'm going to say. And they're really into AI, and we met and we were enthusing and we were sharing, and it was a great meeting of minds, great conversation. And then I was saying, so what's going on in your organisation? And this person was saying that at the start of the year, the kind of C-suite people were all like, right, we're going to do AI. And this person was delighted and was really expecting to start getting some licenses and training and some sort of movement down at, in their middle level. And then they said that the CFO and CEO had been spending most of this year attending a lot of, those conferences which, the IBEX and the vendors and the Microsofts and so on. And they've gone to so many of the conferences and they've heard about what they should be doing that they're now in a form of fear and paralysis, because they're going, oh, well, if we're going to do this, we have to do it in this way, the way they've been told at these conferences. Whereas this individual is like, look, just give us a few licenses, get the AI Institute in, we'll do a bit of training, let's see what happens. And they're actually in paralysis from listening to the speakers. What would be your take on that?
Yeah, well, people talk about fight or flight all the time, but there is a third element there called freeze. So you can't run, you can't fight, you just stop. You just don't know what to do, and it's an overwhelm kind of feeling that you just you're looking at everything. There's so much stuff in there, and there's so much noise, and then you just can't see the value. And that one of the things I like to do with people when I'm working with them is kind of cut through that noise, and then look for the value. And sometimes when people think about like things they could apply AI to, actually the better thing would be just tweak the process that you're doing at the moment, and you'll improve things for everyone. So AI doesn't necessarily go everywhere, but it can bring you huge value if you apply it in the right places and prioritize that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll speak to. I'm really interested to go really deep on your process in a moment on strategy. But I suppose speaking to that point about like, does it have to be AI? We were concluding a training cohort with a group the other day, and what we were doing was we were kind of outlining automation, like the likes of N8N, Make.com, Zapier, that kind of thing. And we were outlining and showing automations that we had set up with a view to getting them thinking about automating their processes. We learned not to teach them automation because we were doing that earlier in the year, and then that was actually contributing to overwhelm because people were saying, I really wish I didn't know about automation because now I know it's possible and I know I'll never ever have the time to set this up myself. So our new method is to basically get people brainstorming, drawing out the maps, sending us the photos, and then we can build the automations for them. So that's our new approach. But the really interesting thing with this group was that most of the automations that they were coming up with, they had no AI component in them. Like, it was literally just a Power Automate, connecting files, looking for a change in a row, notifying people. So there's an awful lot of simple fixes, as you say, that can bring around a lot of value, save a lot of time, save a lot of drudgery, without even beginning to even look at AI.
Yeah.
But let's look at AI. Let's look at AI.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Stephen.
No, you go. I'm probably going to answer your next question, so you go ask it.
Thanks very much. I'm the asker. So I was going to say, so you and I are working together now on delivering AI strategy for specific clients. Tell me, or tell everyone who's listening, about your approach to AI strategy. I suppose speak at it from the point of view of someone who really has been to a lot of those conferences and is a bit afeared of what's going on. So take away the fear and tell me how you do it.
Yeah, I like to take a practical approach with people. So, and it's actually what you just said is kind of showing and telling. So showing them things that you might do, or maybe things that people in their industry are doing, and then having that kind of ideation session with them around looking at their, what's their customer journey, where are their pain points that could be addressed, and then is there an AI that could do that? Is there different opportunities for AI? Then actually, let's actually look at that list of use cases that the people have come up with, and let's prioritize them. What's feasible? What's going to bring a lot of value. And I like to call it right value rather than the high value, because sometimes you go after the high value one and it's not going to return and the investment quickly, and people will lose faith. So we want
Yes.
to work out how we're going to get that return on investment. We want to work out how we're going to track that so that we can actually see it happening. And then we can build out. And then there's a whole set of things they can do around that. Obviously, training is a huge thing. The AI literacy is the first thing. There's actually a lot of stuff they can do with AI without any development stuff at all.
Yeah.
I think I'm talking a lot about context engineering at the moment, which is where you set your AI up for success. And a really simple thing you can do with that is just clean your data. If you've got an AI if you've got Salesforce and you've got Agentforce running in the background there, but half your opportunities have never closed and they're 2 years old and still open, half your accounts in there are like not complete and don't have all the information, your AI does not stand a chance. So you need to spend some time in just actually cleaning that up. And then you will get the benefit from that AI.
I
It's
love
simple
the
things.
example. I love the example you chose there, because everybody in the whole world knows that salespeople, they're not the finest people at maintaining clean CRM systems. So, so the sooner they get down and start closing items and bringing things up to speed, the better for everyone.
Yeah, it's about, but also seeing why should they? It's kind of,
Yeah.
why should I do that? I don't know anything about this AI. What's the benefit? So it's kind of helping them imagine what could happen and how things would be. The other thing, actually, speaking of, say, Salesforce or Microsoft or Copilot or whatever, is just make sure all your tools are up to date, because there's AIs coming with a lot of software, and if you're not on the latest version, you can't get access to that AI. So get up to date, get your data up to date. You don't have to have a big development project to get ahead on AI. You can just use the tools that you have already and use them well. So let's be pragmatic. Let's get a roadmap out, of things that you can do, and what's the vision. And that should be tied to your business strategy or your business plan. And look, if your business strategy and your business plan maybe doesn't say AI or anything about AI, maybe it could. And it's a two-way link. So your AI strategy should speak to your business plan, but your business plan could be informed by your AI strategy as well. But there's
Yeah.
also then your IT strategy and your data strategy. If you don't have those, you don't need them to start implementing AI, but it's good to start thinking about them and bringing some formality into that, so that everything you do has got a reason, and you know where you're going. What's your North Star? What you're trying to get to?
Yeah. So when you were talking about the use cases and identifying the use cases to go forward with, what's a great use case? Like, what are you looking for? Obviously, quality data would be one thing.
Yeah. Well, I think a great use case is something that frees up people's time.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and one of the simplest things, like, so if you've got a customer service team there, and they're just busy answering calls all day, and if you could put a good AI in front of that,
Mm.
that could actually close a lot of the calls before it gets to the humans, that will save time. And those people can actually spend more time then resolving the trickier customer service problems. You have less kind of contact time for those calls. You've got
Hmm.
better resolution. Better customers are happier, and your agents are going to
Yeah.
be happier because they're just not hammered all the time.
Exactly. Well, actually, a shout out to Irish Life there. We were both at the, remember the analytics conference
Yeah.
recently, and they had a room with people sharing case studies. And there was somebody there from Irish Life who was talking about, when people are claiming life insurance, it's usually at a time of, great upset and tragedy and sadness. And they were sharing how they have implemented AI to kind of remove some of the sort of initial kind of tappy tap touch point questions, and again freeing people, their staff up to speak with empathy as humans to other humans who need some support. So I thought that was a really, really
It's
lovely example.
it's really good, because for Irish Life they have thousands and thousands of life policies for that family member. There's only one, and that's the most
Yeah,
important one. So it's a
yeah.
lovely.
It's great. We're at a stage now where there's some lovely use cases coming through. I think it's great as well the way companies are sharing them. Not in a just look at us, we're great, but just sharing from a learning from each other point of view. What would be some other maybe Irish case studies that kind of come to your mind? I'm just saying this because mostly the people who listen to this are Irish.
Yeah, so well, Irish with AI, there's an Irish twist on things, but you're still
Mm.
looking at right across the market. So, I think what a lot of organizations will want to, there's a fear as well about this kind of replacing people. I haven't, you hear stories of large organizations letting go thousands of people, uh, but that may be less about AI and more about economics.
One of the things I heard during the week was actually there was a professor in the US came out and he's been doing a whole lot of study on this, and he was saying that there's a lot of things being called out as being like AI has made these people lose their job, but it's actually just there was a lot of overhiring that went on during COVID. So I'll
It,
put the
it,
link
it,
to that in the show notes.
yeah, it is. There has been some organizations who famously came out and said, "Oh, we're letting go of all of these people. We're going to automate
Florida,
everything." I'm not mentioning any names, but they and then
I
now
am.
they're rehiring people because what they tried to do, it was ambitious, okay, but they just realized that it's not AI wasn't quite ready for what they want to do. It's actually getting a bit better now with the focus on agentic AI.
Mm.
Again, context engineering comes hugely into that to make sure that your AIs are successful. It's yeah, so that's a really good example. But again, from the Irish example, Irish people like to talk to each other. They like, to be friendly, but they're also pragmatic as well, and they don't mind dealing with bots if it gives them the answer. They hate it if they go through a thing with a bot and then they have to then go to an agent. Get your
Yeah,
bots up to speed so that your bots can resolve most of the issues, and your
yeah,
customers will love it.
yeah. That is so true. Now, you said agentic. Let's talk about agentic AI. I know you want to.
I always don't want to talk. I talk about all of the
All of
and
the AIs.
all of the AIs, and and the idea of agentic AI is kind of, and people are kind of going, what the, well, we had AI,
Define
we had
it actually for anyone
generative
listening.
AI, and no, I'm not going to give you, I'm not going to give you a definition. I'm going to tell you what it is, right? So an agent is, if as a programmer, it's a subroutine, right? It's a function that I call, right? And but it's a clever function, right? So in the old
Mm.
days, a function you had to give it exact parameters, and you expected exact parameters back. With the agent, what it's going to do, you give it a some kind of prompt, um, with some context, and it does stuff, but it can do other stuff. It can actually call out to other services. It can make, if you need to translation, it calls out to Google or something, and but then gives you back the answer.
I,
Yeah,
I think the word is autonomously, and this for me is
yeah,
like this is what makes some. There's a lot of hype around agents. What makes it an agent is it can work autonomously. You don't have to stand over doing your tappy tap tap.
yeah. It
You
doesn't
give it
rely
you give it a brief.
on a user to give it a prompt to action, and the prompt doesn't have to be like, as I said, like that kind of old
Exhaustive.
story,
Yeah.
specific things. It needs to know what to do, but it can kind of examine your prompt and understand, or it's not your prompt, it's an automatic prompt, examine what's in there and action it and make its own decisions. Do I need to call out to Google? Do I need to do this? Or do I actually need to go back and ask for more information? All of those things. It can do it without any interaction. And that is the key. Yeah, it is
Mm.
autonomous. But everyone slaps the word agent on everything now, and some things that aren't autonomous are agents. But it just enables process flow to happen in a really clever way. But
Yeah.
it needs to be architected well.
And tell me about that.
So you mentioned earlier things like N8N, which is an awesome tool for managing that process flow. But when you're having a conversation, like so a user's having a conversation with a chatbot, there's a whole history of that conversation there. So when the chatbot needs to call to an agent to get it to do something else, the chatbot can give it the whole conversation, or it can summarize it, or pull out the exact things that are really going to make the agent more successful. That there's an engineering around that, and you have to understand how that works. There's a company in Dublin called Gentic who are really, really leading on the thinking on this.
Shout out to Gentic, love you to come on the show.
Well, I'll give you Sean's number later. And then it's so how do we do that? How do we make sure that our agents are set up for success? Because we hear a lot of things about, like, I have seen you get to the fourth agent and it breaks, and it's because you're not managing that pipeline, you're not managing the information across, and it's just so. But it's guardrails. I always tell people, it's like the blow up things down the sides of a bowling alley when the kids are there, right? It just stops you gutter bowling, and that's what these guardrails are there for now, of course, and including on the good governance and AI Act and stuff like that. Guardrails help you get more strikes, okay, and stop you gutter bowling.
Okay, so you've kind of lost me on the bowling reference, because
sorry.
I actually like most sports, but there's one sport that I just detest, and it's bowling. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
My idea of a really bad team night out would be bowling. Worse.
We can put the guards in, and then you'd be getting strikes. It'd be lovely.
It's okay if it's a bar. If it's bowling, I'll go to the bar, Brilliant. So that is a really good definition, actually. And I think the term is being abused and overused throughout. It was, I suppose, at the start of this year, I was kind of feeling like agents was kind of going to be a very exciting thing for 2025. If I'm honest, I don't think it has evolved or proliferated as much as I had expected it to be. I thought the world was going to look very different at the end of 2025. What do you think?
I wrote an article around this time last year saying 2025 was going to be the year of the agent.
I must have been reading your article.
and it was the hype. It was the agent was the hype. But people are finding it a little bit more difficult to implement. And they're also worried about cost, because you've got these big models that cost a lot of money to run things against. But actually, and I've written a lot about this as well, if you're doing an agent, it doesn't have to have the big model. It could have a small language model, and the likes of Google, for example, have got.
What's your favorite small language model?
It's the probably the Google one at the moment, because it's like
fully formed and beautiful.
Put me on the spot, but it's like
Sorry.
So what the difference between small language models and big language models is they've basically taken the big language model, they compressed it down using engineering. It's not going to be quite as accurate, but it can often be good enough to do a particular task autonomously. So that's the important thing. If it can do the job, use it, and it's going to be way cheaper. And you can even, if necessary, if you're cloud averse or whatever, you can host those on your own kit in your own server farm. So it's kind of it makes sense for some organizations. If your security posture means that you don't want all of this stuff, or it could be hybrid where that thing is the real secure thing. It's on-prem. And everything else is going to services in the cloud on Hugging Face or on Azure or whatever. So it's it just enables that level of security and low cost.
What happened to the sound?
Oh, did you lose my sound?
I lost something, but don't worry, I'll edit it out. I'll do the editing, Joe, don't worry. Okay, so where will I come in here now? That's a really good description, actually. Funny, if I was to ask you, I know we're not going into predictions land anyway, but like what some of the words that you used naturally in the conversation are words that we have seen our clients and people who are learning with us use as their kind of like, I'm almost calling it like the word of the year. So for example, when we started out doing AI training, the big fear that people had was that AI will take my job. And that quickly moved in 2024 to be about data security, what's going to happen to my data security? In 2025, the word was overwhelm at the start of the year, but I'm very happy to announce that that word is changing, and now the word is curiosity. And I love that. So we're stepping into 2026, and it's all about curiosity, curious minds, and that word is coming up again and again. What would
Yeah.
be your word?
AI curiosity is a great word because and businesses should be AI curious. They
Yes.
should be thinking, businesses should always be looking for what's the thing that's going to give us value.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, some of those things are still hanging around. Channel 4 Dispatches did a show just this week talking about, is AI going to steal my job? And
Did you watch
when
it?
I did, yeah, no, it was quite interesting. And of course, I spotted it at the beginning, but the big reveal at the end was that the host was an AI. So it was.
Ah,
Sorry, I haven't spoiled that for anyone who hasn't
spoiler!
caught
I'm
up.
going to watch
Yeah,
it this weekend. Damn it! You
yeah.
ruined my weekend viewing.
But it is good. Like and a lot of so they did things like they took a solicitor, a doctor, and a couple of the professions, musician, and put them up against either directly with the AI or people using the AI. And in general, the humans still won, but it's just ahead. The AIs
Yeah,
are catching up, and
catching
they
up.
are for a lot of cases good enough. Like so, the doctor got some really good diagnoses, and the AI got some okay diagnoses. But the thing about doctors is we don't have enough doctors. Okay,
Mm,
so bringing AI in to be a kind of first line triage um, is going to be good for us. Okay,
yes.
even in Ireland, we're short of GPs. In the whole
Mm,
of the world, we are seriously short of doctors. There are whole communities who don't have a doctor for 100 kilometers.
yes.
It's
It's
so
a good thing that we can
these
bring in
these
AI.
these are a good thing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, I totally. Well, I think it's like where I'm seeing is like it's very much. I wish it wasn't called AI, artificial intelligence. I wish it was called augmented because that's what we're seeing. Even in my own use case, I have a really cool business coach set up on ChatGPT on my phone. It's trained on my favorite business books, the ones I've never read. It's trained on podcast, audio, all sorts of things that I really want to influence. But I still have a real life business coach. I just don't annoy him so much anymore with like stupid emails because now I talk to my phone in the car. So I
yeah,
think this kind of this augmented world is the world we're living in. And back to that Irish middle manager who's dying for her C-suite to get up and get moving. Hopefully they will adapt a more
yeah.
curious stance in 2026 because that's what they need to do.
Yeah, and so I'm hoping 2026 actually is the year when the small to medium enterprises in Ireland get really invested in AI.
Yeah.
And I have started a business specifically for that market, for the likes of construction, our country's built on the construction industry, the professional services industry, there's small manufacturers out there who can bring AI simply into it mightn't be into their operations, could be in marketing, they're not using it, they're not gaining the
Hmm.
advantages they should be using there. So that's what I believe in because I think that's an underserved market from a
Hmm.
consulting point of view, and I think they need the help, they need the guidance, and that's why I set up my business.
And I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes. And we'll put a link to your LinkedIn as well. Stephen, you're publishing really great, interesting thought pieces on LinkedIn in the most recent times. So thank you very much for coming on today.
You're very welcome.
Thanks to all the people who've been listening. I hope you've really enjoyed this. If you did enjoy it, and if my conversation with Stephen put a little lights on in your head, you know what you got to do. You can hit subscribe, and then that means you will never miss another episode. We bring out episodes every 2 weeks. Our goal is to bring you face to face with leaders who are actually implementing, so you can hear from the trenches, from real life people, not from people showboating at conferences about how they are implementing AI. So thank you very much for listening. See you in the next 2 weeks. And Stephen Redmond, thank you very much for coming on to Chatting GPT.
Thanks for having me.